Hello everyone, my name is Neerav Kaku. I'm a Delphi MVP and a certified master Delphi developer. Today's video is all about using attributes for simplifying your database development. Uh, Before I go ahead, this video is dedicated to the India Delphi users group who have supported the request of getting this video created. So a big shout out to you guys. Uh, Now, coming back to attributes, right? They have been there for a long time, right? But I see that a lot of people still don't know why, why would one use attributes, right? Because things were moving along just fine even before attributes. So why use attributes? So I'll hopefully try to answer that question. I'll speak a little bit about you know what attributes are, why are they used or needed in some cases, and then we'll go specifically in one area, which is basically how to use them to simplify database development. This video is, is not shot or created in one continuous take. So, I keep creating it as and when, I find the time. So, time to time, you will notice that clothes have changed, my background has changed. So please bear with me. But of course, I will try to keep the flow of what I want to say as continuous as possible. All right. So let's get started. Okay, so let's start with what attributes are. Now, we can look at we can think of attributes as an additional information that you can assign to a class, a function, a field of a class, right? Uh, and what happens is that that information gets tied in at compile time with that specific at that specific place, whether it's a field, class, or a function. And using RTTI, you can retrieve it at runtime. So, if I were to give you sort of an bad analogy, attributes would be something that, say, if you went to a store, right, and you're buying, a shirt. Now, you have multiple shirts out there, which is fine, and every shirt has some variables, right? Like for example, whether what's the color of the shirt, what's the size of the shirt, what's the price of the shirt, is it discounted, yes or no, or something like that, right? Now those things, those variables can vary from shirt to shirt, but all shirts have those variables, right? Now, attributes are basically stuff that you can attach to the variables. So, say for example, you can have, okay, a shirt size must be between S and XXL, right? Or, a color must be between this and this, or, a discount must be between 15% to 25%, right? And those are basically information that you can attach to these variables, right? So if I've not done a good job of making you understand, it doesn't matter. All you have to realize is attributes are informations that you can add to classes or fields of the classes or methods of the classes at compile time. You can retrieve that information at runtime when the class is in use. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then when I explain, give you the example, I think the concept will become more clear. Okay, so let's do this. Let's try and create a quick, simple, the most plain vanilla attribute that we can create for the first time, right? So this is nothing but a simple VCL form. And what I want to do is I want to create an attribute of my own. So the way you go ahead and create an attribute is you first give a name. Attribute is nothing but a class. So, and it has to inherit, when you create an attribute, it has to, it has to inherit from a custom attribute class. So let's call this, say, so my price attribute. Okay. And I'll create it from the custom attribute. And that's it. Now you have an attribute of called T price, which is inherited from custom attribute, right? So let's go ahead and create T shirt, which is nothing but a class. Okay, and let's make a private, and let's make public, right? And let's call this, now let's say this shirt has a field called F price, which is cardinal. Because always going to be a positive price. And let's also give it a property. This is not necessary. I'm just writing, to fit the convention. So F price, which is cardinal, and we say read F price, write F price. Okay. So what we've done is we've created shirt, a class called shirt, t-shirt. That's a bit of a pun, isn't it? T-shirts. Okay, but okay. So the class called shirt, and shirt has a field called price, and we are using a property to read and write to that price, right? So there's nothing much going on. All I've done is created a simple class. I've still not used an attribute, right? Now, uh, let me sort of take a button here and just click here and now to use basically to retrieve this information that is weaved in at compile time, right? And you want it at runtime. Delphi gives a rich ecosystem uh, called RTTI. So the way to use RTTI is to first include this unit called RTTI. Okay. And once you have that, it has all the features that you need to access attributes and the information of the attributes that we want. So the way RTTI works, of course, is not a video on understanding how to use RTTI. So I'm going to write this code, and I would assume that you already know what all of that means. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to create a context, uh, eh, which is the RTTI context dot create, right? And then to get information of the shirt, okay, you have to put it, you have to get the type information, right? So you do context dot get type, and you go t shirt, right? And you get information of this class type, okay? And now if you want to see all the fields that the shirt has, right? You can go for where F in, sorry, for where F in T dot get fields do, and let's put, let's just align this on top just to make it cleaner. Let's take a memo so that we can see what we are getting. And let's go to the string lines, just remove this, let's clean. And we can say, okay, memo one dot lines dot one dot lines dot add f dot name. Okay, and let's run this for now. Okay, and if you go to this, there you can see it says f price because we gave it this shirt, and shirt has one field called f price, right? So it will return that field to us. Okay, so this is fine. We've got this information of the shirt, but where do attributes come in, right? So now what we can do is we can say, hang on a minute, I want to attach uh, an attribute which you always attach in square brackets, right? And you can say, I want to attach T price. You see this attribute that we just created? It has given us the ability to attach that. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that the word attribute is missing in the name in Code Insight, but that's completely normal. It's because Code Insight is kind of coded to ignore the attribute word in it, so that it's just easier for developers to understand. But you can see that it's inherited from custom attribute, which is exactly the same one, so you know that you're looking at the right attribute, right? So now that I've attached this, I can actually, you know, go in and create one more, between the fields, and I can create one more loop inside saying that, hey, uh, let's make it begin. And what I can do is I can go ahead and do this for where a in f dot get attributes. Okay, and this is going to give me an array of attributes, and I can do the same thing. Memo one dot lines dot add f dot name has the attribute a dot class name. All right. Now if I run this, you can see that it says, okay, I found f price, and f price has the attribute t price attribute. Okay. Now this is although this looks quite a trivial thing, it's actually quite important, right? So what I've done is I've taken this attribute and I attached it to f price, and the compiler has compiled it with that, and now I can get that information at runtime based on the class, right? So uh, that's how attributes can be used. However, the real benefit of an attribute is not in just finding out whether it exists on a field or not. The important thing is that you can actually attach more information in that attribute, uh, and then at runtime decide based on the information that that attribute has. And let's take this example one step forward. Okay, so what I could do is, because it's the price attribute, right? I can actually, and because price attribute is a class, it can also have its private and public members. Uh, and if I were to say f minimum price, okay, and I'll make it a cardinal, and I can have a constructor to this attribute, which is create, and I can write min price, which is cardinal, because it's always going to be positive, right? And I can do this, and I can say f minimum price is equal to min price. Okay, that's fine, no problem. And what I want to do is I want to access this again via property. So let's just say I do property minimum price is cardinal of, and read is f minimum price, and write. We don't want to write anything. Just read it. No problem. Okay. So what happens is now this attribute requires, whenever it's attached to any field, will require a minimum price information. Now you can see this shirt, we've got price attribute. You see the error has popped up, not enough actual parameters, because now this price forces the attribute forces the users to give a minimum price. So let's just say that, okay, the minimum price should be, 200. Okay. So now uh, what's happened is that when this class is created, this attribute is attached to the price, and now you've got a minimum price of 200. Uh, the value 200 attached and put in the minimum price, which is now attached to this variable called f price of shirt, right? Now, how you can use this is you can, of course, do this, and then you can say, hang on, if A is T price attribute, correct? Yeah, okay. Then hang on, I know if it is a price attribute, then it has, a value, right? Of minimum price. So I can go ahead and say if A is price attribute, then begin, and I can say A as T price attribute dot minimum price. I can say memo one dot is dot add this shirt class as a minimum price of, right? Minimum price dot toString. And we'll close this. And now let's go ahead and run the application. And now you see it, the first one, and then it says, okay, this shirt class has a minimum price of 200, which is exactly what we had given here. There you go. Okay, so in the previous section, we saw how to basically create your own custom attribute and how to attach it to a field of a class, and then using the system.rtti unit, how to basically retrieve that attribute information at runtime. Now, the rest of this example will follow how to use this particular functionality with your database applications. And for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a quick new VCL application. And in that, let's go ahead and first save it. So what I've done now is just to save time, I have assembled a FD connection and FD query, a data source DB grid. I've connected the FD connection to the backend database. And if I run this application right now, it's the most simplest of application that just gets data from a table in a database. Okay, so nothing fancy here. You can see the code. Uh, it's just all these declarations in every query. It selects from a table called users, and that's it. Done. No problem. Okay. So now, how can we use the attributes to do or add some kind of a special functionality to it, right? So let's say if I wanted to make this instance of the query read only, and I wanted to do it using an attribute. Uh, So what would I do? I could, of course, first create my own attribute. Let's say, read only, or I think read only is a reserved word, so I'm going to make it the only read attribute equal to class, and as usual, we inherit from the custom attribute, and let's just say we just attach this attribute to when we read, okay, and now on before post, I can check, right, whether this particular uh, has been marked read only or not. So what I can do is I can again go to users system dot rtti. I see this the rtti context dot create where type is equal to c dot get type and I'm going to say self dot class type. So we get the information first, and then let's say where field is equal to, this time we're going to get, sorry, type dot get field, and here because I know the name of the field, I can sorry, this one, I can just simply say, hang on a minute, get me this field, okay, and now if I get it, if assign F, then I can check whether is this query marked as read only, okay, and so I can go ahead and say if it is assigned, then let me go ahead and say where A is equal to F dot get attribute, and I can get a specific kind of attribute. Uh, and I say if I'm specifically looking for this kind of attribute, right? Only read, then I'll try and get that. And I said, okay, if this attribute is attached, okay, then I can simply raise an exception saying that sorry, cannot modify this FT query as it's been marked as only read. And with a hint, remove the only read attribute to be able to make changes, right? Uh, and there it is. And now, if I go ahead and run this application, I'm going to quickly put a breakpoint here. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to open this. I'm going to say, let's just say, okay, I've got this guy, and I'm going to make a change. And now it comes for before post. And here, if you look at it, there's my type for that. There's my field, because I gave it a specific name, and so it found this field. Now I'm going to try and find if this has a read-only attribute, and it does. It's not nil. And because it has a read-only attribute and it is returned true, you can see it gives me an error saying cannot modify, remove the only read attribute to be able to make changes. And I will not be able to save this. I will not be able to save because, Ghost has done that now. So, if you if you've understood the previous example, what you'll very quickly figure out is that attribute is actually a very smart way of adding custom properties to a field. Now, that field can be a component, the field can be, a regular field. The thing is that, say, for example, you, you work with a component and it's your favorite component, and you just wish that, oh my God, I wish the object inspector had, you know, these properties also that I could set at, at design time in the object inspector. But unfortunately, the component doesn't have those properties. You can use attributes to make your own properties, attach it on top of that component as a field, and then using RTTI at runtime, query those properties. I don't know if it's all coming together now. Uh, so, like how we just, added a only read property uh, to FD query, right? That's exactly what attributes do. So, uh, if you, I give, we'll talk about one more way or one more property that we can add dynamically. And hopefully, after that, seeing that example, everything will start making more sense. All right, so let's go on to the next example. This is one of the ways that you can use this attribute. So, say for example, if you had another query, if you had another query here, the other way that you can do is you can uh, actually even sort of attach, uh, this is just another example, right? Say, for example, the query table name attribute, right? And again, inherit from this class. Now, what we want to do is we want to use this attribute for the query to dynamically get the table name without having us specify it in the select statement, right? So let's just say private, public, and this time we can initialize this attribute with the table name. So let's just and to initialize, we've seen that we can use a constructor, okay, and here is a table name and string. And here we can have a property f no, table name, or I don't like to call this, so I'll just call this table name is string. And if I press Control Shift C, it will complete, and we'll say f table name is equal to value, which is fine. And create. What we want to do is we want to say f table name is equal to table name. Okay. So now in this query, right, I can attach an attribute saying that, hey, this is query table name, and I want this time, let's say I want to open, let's say, photos, right? Or OP photos. So all I have to do is I can say OP photos here, all right? So now this attribute is attached to this query, which is fine. And uh, before you open uh, you want to set the SQL, right? So I can go ahead and say, okay, query before open, you know. So this time, once you've attached this, let's go ahead and simply copy the code so that you don't have to watch me type all of that again. And this time I'm going to get query field two, all right. And once I find it, I'm going to say get attribute, and this time I'm going to look for this specific attribute. So now all I have to do is look for FP query 2 and get this attribute. So for me, this attribute is query table 1. So I'll go down. I'll say query table 1 attribute. And if that's signed, then I know that this attribute has a table name. So all I will do is I'll go here and say, hey, then data set, I know this data set is in FD query. So STFD query dot SQL, FD query dot SQL dot text is equal to select star from a dot table. All right, because I know that this attribute has a property called table name, which is being set at the time of construction of this attribute. So I'm going to do this, and that's it. So let's go ahead and write the your to open, right? Now let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. Let's click this button and we come here. And as soon as we do this, it goes to before open. Before open, we get the RTTI context, we get the field name, which is fine. Um, and now we try and see if it's got a query table name attribute, and we do have it. So we select and make the SQL text of this data set to this table, which is now this. So now if I press F8, you will see that ftquery2.sql.text is select star from OP photos, right? Which we had dynamically added as a table name here. And now, of course, if we run it, it's not going to give us any errors because it was able to open up this table. Uh, so once again, attributes are properties that you can add to your favorite components, uh, just like how they would be present in an object inspector. I hope it's making sense now a little bit more than what it was before. So this was a kind of short introduction to how to use attributes for simplifying your database programming. Uh, there are definitely way more elaborate and complex ways of using attributes. You can use them to generate dynamic queries uh, for by defining a class of a table with the columns equaling to the fields, and then and then given a class having the table name, and you can dynamically generate a insert query and update query. You can dynamically add events, uh, and do a lot of fancy stuff. So if you want me to create one more video to sort of how on using attributes to create your own custom ORM, put in the comments below, And if I have enough interest, I'll show you how to your own custom ORM also. Thanks for watching.